How many of you since the election have been at a march or a protest? And how many have done that, say, in March, in the last month? Okay, so staying high. Richie, as our young elected official, what do you think of the street part of this, which is different in social justice than just going to the voting booth?
Well, it shows that change has both an inside game and an outside game, and it puts the myth of millennial apathy to rest, because Donald Trump's election has set off a wave of demonstrations. There were millions of Americans who participated in the Women's March, not only in Washington, D.C., but in every major city across the country. And those demonstrations were largely driven by millennials. You're shaking your head. Go ahead.
Well, I just think that, you know, it was so powerful to see the Women's March, but also to acknowledge the amount of people who have been participating in these marches. You know, I've been involved in, you know, Black Lives Matter style movements and in that type of activism. And so I'm really excited to see, like, kind of the uniting of forces of people who might have been more on the fence when it came to participating in activism. I wish there was more reliance on the wisdom of people who have been doing it, but I'm really excited to see the momentum of people being out there in the streets, people bringing pizza to these protests, and just, you know, coming out and supporting. You contrast that, Jasiri, as someone who uses music. Hillary Clinton had a lot of musicians out. I don't know whether it helped or hurt her. We're going to play a little bit of Lady Gaga, who was big for her on the campaign trail. Take a listen.
It's an honor tonight for me to say a 30-year-old woman from an Italian-American immigrant family that I'm with her.
But as I mentioned, she did worse among young people.
Well, I think that, you know, I believe that just being a musician necessarily, because I like your music, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm somebody that's going to like or agree with your political thing. I think celebrity, just to be a celebrity, isn't something that is going to guarantee somebody's a vote. I think you have to be intelligent, you have to understand the issues and be issue driven. I think people also look for people that have been out there. If you haven't been somebody that has been active and on the front lines in some of these protests, some of these movements, and you just get out there to say you're getting behind a particular candidate, then, you know, I kind of wonder how serious I can take you if I haven't seen you being on the front line of some of these issues in the first place.
Amani.
I mean, honestly, the statistics about white women voters doesn't really surprise me too much. We really have to consider whose backs this past election fell on, and it was entirely people of color. It was our livelihoods that were thrown under the bus, you know, in these debates and the discussions taking place. Many of us were excluded from those conversations, and of course, you know, a lot of people are saying that one of the positives from Trump's presidency is that it's rallied a lot of people together, it's gotten a lot of people in the streets, but you could have asked any person of color prior to the elections if racism was still a thing, and they would have gladly answered that question without us.
Yeah, I think that the election showed that young people want to participate in this, in politics and get out in the streets and do activism. They were doing that before the 2016 election. That's going to continue that was going to continue even if Hillary Clinton had been elected president. What I think Trump does is create a catalyst and really a sense of urgency that you have no choice but to get into the streets and continue your activism.
Oh, absolutely. I think that, you know, even if Hillary had won, and a lot of people like to, you know, imagine what it would be like and that it would be this wonderful, you know, kind of fantasy land. But honestly, there were a lot of issues with her policy platform, and I think that we'd still be doing this work. You know, the segments, you know, growing up Trump, but we grew up Obama, and there was still you know, a variety of issues to be fighting against, and that would, you know, be the case whether or not Trump was in office. I just think there's more energy behind it now. And there may be more energy. One of the things we're going to talk about with the Trump folks coming up next is that young people who were Trump supporters were far more enthusiastic. Jasiri, listen to Donald Trump talk about his young support and even what he believed was some sort of Bernie overlap.
I'll go a step further. I think a lot of the young people that are with Bernie Sanders are going to come over to my side because they want jobs, they see what's happening, and Bernie Sanders and I agree on one thing, trade, that we don't know what we're doing on trade. The difference is I'll make great deals out of it. He doesn't know what to do.
I don't necessarily agree that it was just that, his voters were energized and Hillary's weren't. Because to me, in my community, and what I saw was people energized mainly because, like, our lives are on the line. You know what I'm saying? Like, Trump's rhetoric has actually led to people being killed right now in the United States of America. We're here in New York City, where a guy came to specifically target a black man and killed him. You know what I'm saying? So as I walk this street, I have to understand it. So I don't necessarily think that just because Trump was a celebrity or an apprentice, that this somehow meant that more people were energized by him, or younger people were energized by him, and not by Hillary. I dismiss that. I don't agree with that.
So Amani, what is the message to people who are newly engaged if they weren't excited before November?
I think it's important to center the voices of the people that are being impacted by these policies. I think that this is truly an opportunity for us to elevate narratives that have been marginalized, narratives that are really on the line right now with the current politics taking place around us. And I think it's important for us to make sure that movements are led by those people, that we're giving space to their voices, and allies that want to engage to do so in a way that actually is effective and progressive and contributing to the movement.
Richie, how old were you when you were first elected in New York?
25.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a rush. So what's changed for you, or what you're seeing since then?
The stakes are much higher. Now we have a president who's intent on dismantling the social safety net. And in the New York City Council, I chair the committee that oversees the largest provider of affordable housing, the New York City Housing Authority. And that's the very first program that the Trump administration has targeted for budget cuts. Immediately, $75 million worth of budget cuts, which will translate into more mold, more leaks, more elevator breakdowns in public housing. So the stakes are much higher than ever before.
Last question for each of you, because we are doing some dialogue and we have some young Trump folks coming up next. What would you want to hear from them next?
I just want to hear a good reason why they're supporting Trump. I haven't heard one yet, and I want to hear one.
I would like to hear the truth. I definitely don't want to hear alternative facts. I want to hear real facts, and I want to hear real reasons why you would support somebody with a rhetoric like Trump.
I'm optimistic that they want to convert to our cause. So that's
Oh, you're here for conversion. Okay. Proselytizing is always hard.
Yeah, I mean, optimistically, I'd like to hear a rejection of this normalization of racism that we're seeing, but then again, high hopes.
Well, this is television. We always have high hopes.
I want to know how they were able to overlook the Access Hollywood tape that broke late in this campaign cycle. How were you able to go and vote for somebody who has